Have you ever paused to consider why certain women choose to live alone? No partner, no boyfriend, not even the faintest hint of pursuit. The answer isn't loneliness, scarcity of options, or unresolved heartache. It lies in something far more unsettling, a truth that unravels everything society has conditioned us to believe about a woman's purpose. When a woman embraces solitude, she isn't drifting aimlessly. She's charting a course into the depths of her own being. This kind of self-discovery doesn't arrive with fanfare, social media validation, or the comfort of company. It arrives in stillness, in the quiet forging of resilience, and in a freedom so profound that most people still struggle to grasp it. She isn't lonely, she's deliberate. She isn't indifferent. She's simply stopped setting herself ablaze for those who never cared to feel her warmth. There's something quietly revolutionary about a woman who refuses to equate her worth with romantic attachment. It dismantles archaic narratives of control, shatters the illusion that emotional dependency is inevitable, and exposes a raw truth. Many still don't know how to engage with a woman who doesn't need rescuing. Carl Jung once observed, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." Perhaps this is why her presence unnerves. She mirrors the unclaimed potential in those around her. She embodies what many secretly yearn to become but fear to embody. She doesn't perform love. She chooses it. She doesn't shrink to fit into someone else's story. She authors her own. And in a world obsessed with speed, swiping, matching, rushing into half-formed connections, she moves with the patience of someone who's learned that true belonging begins within. This woman isn't lost. She's operating on a frequency where validation is irrelevant, where worth isn't negotiated but inherent. Where others beg for attention, she cultivates presence. Where society demands urgency, she practices discernment. The criticism she faces, the labels of cold, picky, or damaged, are not about her but about the discomfort she stirs in those who've yet to confront their own shadows. Behind her solitude lies a fullness that transcends the need for external approval. She isn't rejecting love, she's redefining it. She refuses to accept a love that diminishes her, and until she encounters one that expands her, she stands, unapologetically whole. You might dismiss her as prideful, guarded, or bruised. But beneath that judgment, if you listen closely, there's a whisper, a question you've perhaps buried. What if her path isn't a deviation, but a homecoming? What if the silence she guards isn't emptiness, but a sanctuary? Carl Jung wisely noted, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain," and her journey is testament to this. She didn't build walls to keep the world out. She built boundaries to keep herself intact. The peace she's found didn't come cheaply. It was earned through seasons of unraveling, nights of staring into the abyss of her own unmet needs, and mornings of rebuilding herself from fragments others had discarded. This is a woman who has loved until she vanished. She's handed over pieces of herself like currency, begging for scraps of affection in return. But one day she stopped negotiating. She realized that love shouldn't demand her dissolution. What you perceive as detachment is, in truth, a hard-won clarity. Maturity, as Jung reminds us, is scary because it demands presence, depth, and truth. She no longer chases promises, she seeks resonance. She's uninterested in being saved, she wants to be seen in all her complexity. And that terrifies those who still believe love is a transaction, a game of hide and seek where power is measured in neediness. Her solitude is not stagnation, it's alchemy. She's the woman who stared into the furnace of her own shadows, the childhood wounds, the inherited patterns, the relationships that demanded her silence, and emerged reforged. She's done abandoning herself to appease others. When she says no, it's not a rejection of connection, but an affirmation of selfhood. When she walks away, it's not an act of defiance, but of sacred preservation. And when she chooses her own company over shallow encounters, it's not arrogance, it's reverence for the life she's vowed to honor. The world may label her, pity her, or reduce her to a cautionary tale. But in her quietude, she's discovered a truth Jung articulated. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. She's no longer half of something. She's a complete universe, orbiting her own core. And if that unsettles you, consider this. Her wholeness is a mirror. It reflects the parts of yourself you've yet to reconcile, the love you've yet to claim, the freedom you've yet to allow. What the world dismisses as her isolation is, in reality, a sacred communion. She has become a living embodiment of Jung's insight. The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. She knows now that transformation cannot be forced, nor can it bloom in soil poisoned by compromise. Her solitude is not a rejection of connection, but a refusal to dilute her essence. She's tasted love that demanded her silence, relationships that asked her to amputate parts of herself to fit, and she's chosen instead to remain intact, even if it means standing alone. There's a ferocity in this choice, a quiet rebellion that rewrites the script of what it means to be a woman unbound. Consider the nights she's spent unraveling the knots of conditioning, the voices that told her she was too much or not enough, the lies that equated her value to her availability. She's danced with her shadow, faced the specters of abandonment and rejection, and emerged not as a victim, but as an alchemist. Jung reminds us, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. And so she descended, spelunking into the caves of her psyche, mining for truths buried under layers of fear. What she found there was not darkness but power, the kind that blooms when we stop fleeing from ourselves. This woman is no martyr. She's an architect of her own destiny. Every no she speaks is a brick laid in the foundation of her sovereignty. Every boundary she upholds is a testament to the love she now holds for herself, a love that no longer hinges on being chosen but on choosing herself, relentlessly. The world mistakes her independence for indifference, but those who look closer see the opposite, a heart so vast it refuses to settle for anything less than reciprocity. She's not afraid of love. She's terrified of the counterfeit versions she once accepted as real. And in this discernment, she becomes a mirror for those still asleep to their own worth. There's a haunting beauty in her stillness. While others scramble to fill voids with noise, she's learned to listen to the whispers of her intuition, to the rhythm of her own breath, to the ancient wisdom in her bones. Jung once wrote, "Your visions will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes." And awake she is to the truth that love in its purest form does not demand surrender, but invites expansion. She's no longer the woman who loses herself in the eyes of another. She's the woman who finds herself there, reflected back in full. The ache she carries isn't loneliness, it's longing. Longing for a love that honors her fire without demanding she burn herself to ash. Longing for partnership that feels less like ownership and more like pilgrimage. Two souls navigating the wilderness of life, not as saviors but as witnesses. She's weary of dances where she's expected to follow. She wants a tango of equals, where steps are invented in the moment and missteps are met with grace. Until then, she refuses to shrink into someone else's rhythm. Her solitude is not a void, but an incubator, a space where she's growing roots deep enough to withstand any storm. Society labels her a mystery, but she's anything but. Her clarity is crystalline, her intentions unwavering. She's the woman who's learned that the most profound love stories aren't written in grand gestures, but in the quiet moments where two people dare to be real. and real terrifies those still hiding behind filters and facades. Yet she presses on, a lighthouse in a sea of superficiality, her light steady even when ships sail past. Let them misunderstand her. Let them call her jaded or broken. She knows the truth. She's whole in a world that profits from fractured women. In her presence, you feel it, the weight of authenticity. It hums in the air, unsettling and magnetic. She's not here to convince anyone of her worth. She's here to live it. And in doing so, she disrupts the tired narrative that a woman alone is a woman unfinished. Jung's words echo here. The greatest and most important problems of life are all fundamentally insoluble. They can never be solved, but only outgrown. She's outgrown the cages of expectation, the hunger for external validation, the fairy tales that once confined her. What remains is a woman unshackled, her heart a compass pointing not towards someone, but towards something, a truth that transcends the transactional. If you ask her, she'll tell you, this path isn't for the faint of heart. There are days when the silence feels deafening, nights when the ghosts of old loves rattle their chains. But there's also a serenity that comes from knowing she's no longer betraying herself. She's the phoenix who needed no one else's flame to rise. She's the gardener who tended her own soil until it grew fertile enough to sustain life. And when love does arrive, not as a rescue but as a revelation, it will find her already complete, already radiant, already home. So let them whisper, let them doubt, let them cling to their half-lived loves and their fragile masks. She's walking a different road, one paved with the stones of her own courage. And though her footsteps may leave no trace for others to follow, they reverberate in the collective unconscious, a silent drumbeat for every woman daring to ask, what if I choose myself? What if the love I've been seeking was never outside, but within, waiting, like a seed in the dark, for the courage to bloom?